Hello and welcome to the 20th episode of the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast, a podcast all about Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross. I'm your host, Daz, and I'm joined today, as always, for the last 19 episodes by the co-hosts of the podcast, Sandyy and Novage. Today on our milestone show, we're going to be talking about Excalibur Arthur, the new unit that just dropped today on Grand Cross on Global. We're going to be talking about Ragnarok because last show we actually missed the release of the new Ragnarok trailer by just a few hours. So we'll be talking about that this show. We're going to be talking about our favorite moments in the game too. Just like the moments that we really liked that kind of like took us and found a special place in our hearts. And in the end, we're going to finish off with a round of Jeopardy, which I think we've got some fun questions in there too to surprise Sandyy and Novage and continue their little rivalry going. But before we get into that, I think a lot of people would like to know, Sandyy, how is Belgius going? Because he's one of the weirder guild bosses I've had to battle. And I know that people are nipping at your heels asking for these guides to come out. How's it going this week with that?
Yeah, I said Tuesday was the day. So I've been testing all day, trying to get them to level 90 and giving them some gear. But I'm dabbling my feet, aiming for 4,500 and above for extreme. Gotten only 4,300 so far. So right after this podcast, I'm going to go back to the grind and probably get a video out tonight, hopefully.
So is the RNG really bad on this boss, or is it more just a matter of getting your gear and your units up to snuff?
It's more about gear when I'm finding out and what turns to kill him on. And again, trying to get that weekly mission, I'm always missing one. So I don't know if that's the point calculation. I'm sure, 4,300, maybe if I got them all checked off the list, that maybe I can hit the 45 or above.
Well, I look forward. I know by the end of the week, we'll be seeing you at the top of that leaderboard. Novage, your sunburn looks like it's been cooling off a little bit. How are things going for you this week?
A lot better, a lot cooler. I'm glad that it's not so hot, no triple digits, and I hope it stays like this for a good while because I know July's right around the corner, and in this area it could get pretty hot.
I think you might have sent the warm weather my way over on the east side of the continent. We've had quite a bit of a heat wave too. I've been trying to stay inside in air conditioning as much as possible because I melt in the heat. So I don't do well in the heat either. So I completely understand that you're liking the cooler weather a little bit more. All right, well, let's just jump into the show because we do have quite a few topics to cover. It's not just the new unit, but we had that major reveal, the Ragnarok. I don't know, I guess I'm going to call it the Ragnarok expansion because that's kind of what it feels like. Last week, Netmarble, if you haven't heard yet, they had a major announcement. They live streamed it. It was like an hour-long event. And they basically said, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're doubling down on this game, which is amazing. They're creating this almost like a season of an anime, and they're stuffing it into the game and making it like a Grand Cross exclusive. They're taking, again, you can see all the stuff in the teaser. There's not really any spoilers here beyond what you see in the teaser, but the Seven Deadly Sins are traveling out of Britannia to Midgard, which is more like Norse mythology, and they're exploring that side of things and creating new storylines, new characters in this new land, which is really cool because I personally am a big fan of Norse mythology too, so I think that's really cool. Looks like we're going to see some Thor type characters. There's more characters that are more kind of attuned to the Norse mythology side of things, and you'll see a lot of hints towards that in the trailers. So not only that, are we going to be getting, I think it's a chapter every month, they were saying. So we're going to get a full, essentially, season of the anime over a year or two. This is a lot of production work. It's much better production quality than the anime, to be honest with you, too. It looks really sharp, looks really crisp. I'm assuming the storylines are going to be awesome. Some of the character designs look amazing. The fact that Netmarble is pouring this much effort and money into the game says a lot about their commitment to it. You always hear people be like, oh, the game's dead. Everyone's moving to this game, moving to that game. The player base is dwindling. Get too many bots in PvP. Well, this right here tells you that the game's going to be around for at least the next couple of years and probably far into the future. A lot of criticism has come on Netmarble for not doing a lot in game recently. Well, guess what? Turns out they were working on something really big, and this is what it was. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, you should definitely just Google Ragnarok and Seven Deadly Sins, and the trailer will probably be the first thing that you see come up on YouTube. And it's pretty stellar. Sandyy and Novage, I can't wait to hear what you guys take on it, because we haven't really talked too much about it off camera yet either. Sandyy, like, is this what you've been waiting for?
That's a lot of new content. And for them to launch that, is that when the merge is going to happen? You know, so they've been preparing for this.
Yeah, you know what? I almost like it from the event that they had. They mentioned that this is getting released on JP before it's getting released on global by a few weeks, which makes me start to wonder if they're just going to kind of not actually merge. They're just going to kind of keep the current spacing of 3 weeks to a month, whatever it is, between JP and global, which I think might make sense too, because then it gives you time to get the translations and everything sorted out before moving from JP to larger player base on global. Maybe get some bugs ironed out too, and issues resolved that you might come across once you first launch it to the public. Because they don't seem like, we haven't for the past couple of months anyways narrowed that gap any, and I suspected that they were going to try and start moving towards that. Maybe like even skipping this Arthur banner, but it definitely doesn't seem like that's the case. So I think this is going to be the new normal, which is kind of cool, because now we get to like always know those characters that are coming down in the future, but kind of not cool because then you don't get the surprise as well.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I guess I didn't watch that part. You told me to watch the trailer and I kind of skipped all the in between. But I guess now knowing that, I can get my purple stones ready, because 20 characters, new characters that they're adding. So, you know, get your stones ready, get your wallet ready, because I'm sure with that comes cosmetics, all the resources. Like, wow, way to continue to, milk us.
Yeah, they were pretty sneaky with that too. I mean, it's great, like, oh, look at all this new characters, new storylines. That, like, then you think about it, you're like, okay, well, this is one thing to like hype the population up of the player base, but also it's a bit of a cash grab, and it's not like a bad thing. Like, obviously they gotta try and like make excitement, make new characters, but you're not going to be able to reuse that Lost Vein Meliodas set again on any of these characters, presumably, unless they've released other Meliodas, which they might. But still, like, all these new characters we're seeing, these like Sigurds and I can't remember half their names, like Thonars and stuff, like those are going to require brand new purple stone sets to engrave, for the gear for them. So, and then brand new cosmetics too, right? Like, it's pretty much starting almost, it feels like part 2 of the game. It feels like, hey, we've been playing the first version of the game up to this point, and now we're moving into the second era, or the second version of the game. And Novage, did you get a chance to watch that trailer? I mean, I'm kind of curious what your take is on all of this stuff as well.
I did. It's interesting how you say it's like the second chapter. It does definitely feel like, a game, like when you're playing a game and then years later they release new content, like expansion. It kind of does feel like an expansion to the game. And it's kind of nice that, they put so much effort into like the storyline and even creating the trailer that we saw, and some of the in-game footage of like the cinematic stuff is really cool. And so I'm actually looking forward to that, not just the extra characters and the battles that they talked about, which is kind of cool. They even said there's going to be some added co-op stuff, which is always fun to do with your guild mates or people on your friends list. But I think the 20 characters, I mean, I feel like they kind of tested the grounds with like Lilia and, Valenti, those characters, those original content characters that they created already. And now they went full force with like an army of 20. And like you said, I mean, who knows? Maybe they're going to be a little bit different dynamics to those characters, maybe something like a grace or a commandment that kind of makes people don't want to get them. Or in a sense, in certain storylines or certain co-op events or battle events, they have an advantage. So things like that, I'm sure they're probably going to throw into the mix. I personally, so far, I think it was the character that is almost like Camilla. He transforms, I think, into a wolf. So it's another transformation character.
Fenrir, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty excited for it, and it's going to be kind of cool. So it's almost, instead of waiting, like if you're watching anime and you're waiting like week to week to watch the next episode, you're going to be playing an episode or playing the content in a month. So it's month to month.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great for bringing a lot of people into the player base too, because anyone who's a fan of Seven Deadly Sins might catch whiff of this, right? And be like, oh man, like a new season, especially if it's good. Like then they're going to start hearing about it, be like, oh man, I got to like check this out. So they'll come into the game they'll have to come into the game to get exposed to that content, which is really cool. And like you said, Novage too, this isn't just the content that's releasing in terms of like anime content. Like there's also new modes they're talking about, like new playable kind of things and like raids or whatever, co-op events. And they also had some dev notes to release, I think maybe that day or the day before, which pointed towards some of this too. Like the ungeared Guild Wars, they didn't call it specifically that, but it looks like that's what they were kind of alluding to. This knighthood versus knighthood, like 1v1 kind of like raidy type battle, which will be cool too, and I think get more people involved in the community and with their knighthood, because I know a lot of people just kind of join a knighthood just for that gem and they don't really care about like the community surrounding it. And I think that's a shame, because one of the reasons that I personally stick around is for the community that Grand Cross has within itself, within like the Discord communities and like the Reddit communities and everything that's built around the game as well. Okay, so next on the docket, though, we've got Excalibur Arthur. Chosen King Excalibur Arthur. Sandy, you want to tell us about this new unit and how he works?
Yeah, we kind of touched up on him last week when we were diving into Purgatory Bond, and he's the new unit this week. But, you know, he's made for Purgatory Bond, so we know that Purgatory Bond's coming soon. But, you know, him overall, his first skill is called the King's Slash. And that's basically like the Lost Vein AoE. It inflicts charge damage, which ignores defense, right? Equal on a rank 1, 130, 195, and 325. That's just an AoE card. He's not a damage dealer, right? But his second skill here, called Nameless Dance, and that's basically a stance card which taunts enemies and decreases damage taken by 30, 45, and 75% when attacked for on a rank 1, and then 2 turns, and 2 turns on gold. Now, here's the little facet that people might forget, is that on that card, that stance card as well, he also depletes the ultimate move gauge of the enemy who used the skill by, here's the difference, 1 orb, and 2 orbs on a rank 3. So, you know, if you don't know what you're doing and playing against him, he could be just depleting your whole team. And his ultimate, this one I got a kick out of, the Death Pecker. Maybe wrong translation, but that Death Pecker inflicts detonate damage, which is additional 20% damage per orb. And it's a 560 to 840% against one enemy. It's not going to be your killing move, right? But his passive, this is why he's made for Purgatory Bond. His passive increases allies' max HP by 30% and their damage dealt, not a stats increase, to enemies by 20% if every ally in the battle is human. And this applies, so he has to be on the battlefield. He's not a backline unit. So that's why you might be seeing people try him out in PvP, but he's kind of really weak and useless without Bond. But what do you think, Daz? Have you pulled for him?
I did. I got lucky. I did one rotation. I got 3 copies of him and 3 copies of MK2 Valenti. I was like as happy as a kid in a candy store. That was like the best result I could have hoped for in a rotation. I got pretty much nothing else, but I didn't want anything else really, except for maybe a lot dupes for Akumu. But yeah, like you said, you might see him a little bit in PvP just because people are trying him out, but really he is a bad unit without Bond. They go together like Festival King and Demon Hendrickson go together. You might see people try like some mono human teams this week. maybe dabbling with, Festival Arthur, or not Festival, Excalibur Arthur and the One maybe, or maybe even with like I've seen some people try like the 11 Hopper Arthur combo. And to be honest with you, Arthur doesn't bring enough to the table to those teams to take a spot from somebody else. And that's always the big problem when you're looking at PvP. You've got the go-tos, the Green Gothers, the Goddess Elizabeths, the Merlins and T1s of the world. Trying to take one of those out of your lineup and put Arthur into the lineup definitely hinders your options. And not to mention with Excalibur Arthur, he has to have a human team. So you're limiting yourself even further. You can't use Gother, you can't use Merlin, you can't use Sariel, you can't use Ludociel, you can't use Goddess Liz. So you need to find places where you can make up for that. And a little extra damage, a little extra health doesn't replace the revives or the extra attack. You mentioned it too, like 20% extra damage. Yeah, it's nice, but it's not 20% extra attack, right? It's not like a lot of extra crit chance that you get from Gother. Like a couple turns of Green Gother, you're talking like extra crit chance, extra attack, extra crit damage. Like that's huge. Plus he's got the rank ups. Arthur doesn't really do that. He's more of a taunty unit. He's red, so he doesn't fare that well against the Big Daddy Blue unit like T1. So there are issues, and I wouldn't rush to build him up and take him into PvP if you don't have the resources right now. That's my take. Novage, what do you think about Excalibur Arthur?
I think you made a lot of good, important points that to people to consider about him. I think his passive, the big portion of that is the 30% HP. It's so usable in PvE content. I mean, your mono, and some of like the guild boss or final bosses, you might run a mono red team, and most likely Twigo's on there. So if you're using him, you just got to throw 2 more humans that are red. You may pull out a better score that are HP based scoring points. And again, that critical max HP by 30% is so great for Bond. So who knows? You might be seeing some of like, I don't know, the normal guild boss runs that are running like the Keo Monspeed or Zuldris and Twigo, those mono reds. You could switch it up with like a max HP Bond and Twigo and Arthur. It'd be interesting if we start seeing different uses like that. But I see him being not as important in PvP by himself or any other team other than Bond, like you said. But overall, though, I'm glad that he's on this banner, a very easy one, so so people could just hopefully get him early on or get him at the end, and they're not wasting 600 or 900 gems to get a unit that is only useful paired with someone else, or not only partial use of PvP and PvE.
This is one of those banners that if you have the gems to spare, I would probably suggest trying to get a copy of Arthur. It's always hard to tell when they're going to come back. I mean, Arthur is an original character or anything, so you presume that he's going to be on banners going forward in the future, but it might be a couple months out, at least, that before we see him again. But yeah, like he might end up being important for a lot of different content, and these are the kinds of characters too that have a lot of staying power. Like I could see Excalibur Arthur not in PvP necessarily, but maybe lasting longer viably than like your Purgatory Bonds, just because of, like you said, like the boost that you give to scores for things like guild bosses or final bosses. If that's something that you enjoy in the game, getting the high scores there, he'll likely be useful. And like down the road, maybe 3 years from now, there's going to be mono human teams that could, work well with his HP scaling boost that he gives, right? So it's very similar to the argument we had with like Ram or Hopper even, or any of those characters that kind of are support unit boosters. They may not even necessarily be the greatest now, but down the road, they might be ones that you regret that you didn't have a chance to get. And that might be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people too, especially with Purgatory Bond around the corner. We know that that's going to cost 900 gems. I mean, getting Red Arthur You only need one copy of them. So if you get lucky, like, dipping early is perfectly fine on a step up banner, but it does only cost 242 gems, which is the lowest that you can pretty much get to get a guaranteed unit. So at least there's that. It doesn't cost like 600 gems like a lot of these previous banners would have to get that guaranteed unit.
Yeah, he's like Twee God, I mean, getting him, because I never knew that you would be able to use Twigo in anything, and then come to find out he's super useful. So we're always talking about his passive that increased to the max HP by 30%. So gear for him should be, we have a bunch of those laying around, or they're easy to get. Is HP defense set is the way to go with him, just like what we do for Twigo. And he's a tank, His AoE card, I mean, it can do little damage, but he's here to survive, even though I keep saying he's not a damage dealer, but he's just there for his passive. He's a support unit, and he's meant to be as beefy as possible.
Yeah, and we were talking about his taunt card earlier. I totally forgot because you mentioned it pretty early on in our discussion here. But the depletion of the ult gauge that it gives whenever you attack into him, I always feel like these stealth abilities, like the attack. I know you guys love Nanashi, right? And people always forget about that. If you attack someone, like, oh, I didn't notice there's that little blue buff on him, that means there's an Nanashi in the background. Or like, I've been playing a lot of Amelia, and not only do I get attacked a lot twice by a lot of characters and then they get frozen, I do it to other Amelias. It's like, you just can't. There's so much to think about. Sometimes people just forget, right? Someone be like, oh, I'll attack that Arthur first, and then I'm gonna ult him. But guess what? You attacked him, you trained your orb, you lose your ult, right? So things like that are hard to remember, and I think it's kind of an extra bonus for Arthur. So I'll give him that. And I think Sandy and Novage, you guys were talking about, like, all off camera, maybe pairing him up with a Nanashi in the back. I know they're not both humans, but it could be kind of extra trolly fun to have. Just, you can't attack anything because you're going to get drained pretty much no matter what you do. And we're not even sure, maybe you get double dipped if you attack Arthur while he's taunting with Nanashi buff active too. Is there anything else you guys want to chat about with Arthur? Do you guys want to move on to the next segment? What do you think?
One quick note, what you were just mentioning about the depletion. I mean, I could see that being helpful in the sense of guild boss. Like, I know in some of them you run Zeldris to drain the ults, but if you do it a reverse, have him be your tank in a mono red setup, instead of using Zeldris, you can use him and kind of just get that ult drain in that manner. And of course, it just depended on obviously pulling that card more than once, but again, it's nice to see, possible options for other routes.
Really makes you already see how this guy just works into that PvE content, eh? Like, every time you talk about, like, I didn't even consider that, but yeah, like that taunt card, like, they're going to be attacking you. The AI is not smart for PvE content. So, you can always bait them into doing stupid stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that's, I think there's some strats that we're going to be seeing down the road. Maybe Novage has given us a little bit of an insight into the future of some PvE content. Okay. Well, let's move on to the next segment. This is a fun one. It was actually suggested by a listener. And Sandy, can you remember who it was? I feel like I should give him credit, but I didn't write it down in the notes. Maybe we'll have to give him credit for this later on. I'll have to look it up while someone's giving their favorite moment.
I know him. He's our loyal subscriber, Carnage Magneto.
It was Carnage Magneto. Okay, I was like, there's a few people that comment a lot. I wasn't sure which one it was, but Carnage, thank you so much for suggesting this segment. What we're going to do is each of us are going to go over a couple of our favorite moments from the game. Now, this is more like kind of like anime type moments from the story, or maybe just, moments we had while playing the game. But this is a great segment that I think I'm really going to enjoy, and I know Sandy and Novage will too. So hopefully the listeners will as well. So Sandy, you want to take us through maybe a couple of your favorite moments? We'll chat about those.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing that just comes to mind while thinking about this is like, what are my favorite moments? And I would have to say it's like when I first downloaded the game and like watching the story while after like in-game battles, like you battle and then you watch the story again. It's like rewatching the anime, and it's super, super fun because I felt like it was thoroughly thought through. some of the battles that we did and the content or the little, animation that we get after, it followed the anime really, really well. And being able to rewatch those sometimes in little segments, I was able to like catch things that I didn't catch while watching the anime. And honestly, some of the character reactions, they're hilarious. The content that you've already seen or new content, like when that one time it was the summer swimsuit, I guess kind of event, and Gil Thunder's butt was just there. And I'm like, what? So that kind of gives you different point of views, So I loved it. It really followed the anime. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how well Netmarble has done the animation and the character models in this game. And the fact that it's better than the anime itself is something that just boggles my mind. Like, a lot of people give a lot of heat to Netmarble, but you do have to give them credit where credit is due. And this is definitely one of those areas that they shine. And I think we see that with the new Ragnarok expansion. They must know it too. And it's one of their strengths, and they're flexing it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely what Sandy said about being able to, like, it's almost like you're getting a chance to relive the anime, but you're actually taking part in it, that's the cool part, right? Trying to utilize, I mean, sometimes they force you to use the same characters in that certain chapter which is, it's always fun to use the same ones that that from the anime or the manga, if you read that, or if you read that first, knowing what characters you should be using for that fight. It's fun to kind of be in it and play it.
Yeah, so that's kind of like my top when I think about it of what are my favorite moments. But the second one was more of like an event, a collab to be more specific, and it was Kingdom of Fighters for me. I mean, their characters were so good that they're still around today. I mean, I still use Kyo in PvP ungeared. And being able to like see those old school characters get incorporated into the 7 deadly sins kind of kingdom was really, really fun. And it always stands out to me because during that event too, there was a lot of things for us to do, like the KOF arena, being able to get new titles. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was around the same time that PvP had the 4-on-4 event. So it always stands out to me. It's going to be one of my favorite things in the game. I really want them to come back because, I mean, we talk about this all the time, having Athena, right, Daz? So
not
I'm putting
Athena.
out the podcast in case Netmarble is listening.
Yeah, it'd be great to have that one of those collabs, that collab in particular, come back. I think a lot of people I think there's more people that are regretting not getting Kyo than there are people not getting Athena just because of how useful he is in a lot of different scenarios. But oh man, KOF, I didn't know much about Kingdom of Fighters going in, but they did a really good job of it. I think Netmarble does a good job on collaborations too, and kind of makes you hyped about it. I've watched all of the ReZero anime since the collab came out, right? I haven't watched any of the slime stuff too, but I mean, they get you kind of like invested in the characters, and they're good at the storytelling aspect of it. So I can see that's why that's one of your favorite moments too.
One thing I wanted to point out for that collab, I thought was pretty cool, is when you had to play the tournament. It was like a little arcade. You had to have the coins to play it. I thought it was pretty creative. I was 2 fights short of finishing all 3 modes and getting that title, and it still bums me out to this day. I just didn't have enough time. I did not plan that out correctly. I thought I could kill it over the weekend before the reset. That Monday was down to the moment. I was still trying, and the last 2 that I remember, one of them was using what's it, the lesser people that no one really uses. I forget their names. So I think there is the Weird Fangs. I forget what their knighthood's called in the anime, but obviously those characters aren't really utilized, so I didn't level them. So they're like level 60. I'm trying to rush to level them higher so I could beat that fight. But definitely kudos to whoever got that title from that collab. But yeah, but I guess it's a trade, right? I got Athena instead of the title. So he's a little bit more useful.
It's one of Sandy's favorite moments. It's one that haunts your dreams still to this day, Novage. So why don't you tell us about some of your more pleasant memories of the game, Novage? Like that segue?
Yes. Yeah, I would say the second one that stood out to me, and it's probably a lot of people probably had the same similar reaction. I actually did not read the manga first. I just started watching the anime. And I think one of the things that stood out, because I didn't know anything about it really, just I was watching it just straight on. And I would say Escanor's entrance when he was at the bar and he just, Galan sliced them and they were just continuously drinking. And then he got up and he started, being prideful and all that stuff. That was like a really big, I was surprised. I did not see that coming. I know a lot of people probably did, and saying, "Oh, he's the one of the 7 deadly sins," obviously, because the poster board, he doesn't look like his poster board in the Boar Hat Tavern, and Bond was the only one that was saying who recognized him, and he was obviously hurt at the time. But I think that moment stood out. And then when you got to play it again in the game, that was kind of cool, nostalgic. What do you guys have any thoughts on that scene or anime or gameplay of that?
Well, just in general, I think this isn't Netmarble. It's whoever, I can't remember the name of the person who created Seven Deadly Sins, but I like how there was always that misdirect they had. Like, they're talking about the Seven Deadly Sins. You aren't expecting the owner, this little puny little runt of an owner, to be like one of the most powerful and feared, I guess not refugees, fugitives, right, in the land. And then you get the same thing with when Gowther has, I hope this isn't spoiler territory for anybody, but you see Gowther and you see all of his posters, and you see this giant hulking suit of armor. It turns out it's this scrawny little dude who's actually the real Gowther, or at least somewhat the real Gowther. That's a story for another day. But a lot of that misdirect, and the same thing with the Escanor bit, I found very interesting. Not to mention Merlin is a female, right? There's a lot of twisting around that the creator of Seven Deadly Sins did, and I think he should get a lot of respect for that in the storyline, because it surprised Novage, if nobody else.
It's hilarious. I mean, he's so arrogant. Escanor, that reveal was honestly awesome. I think the second one, since you're talking about this, Novage, is that, Escanor's picture on the poster is that, but then it leads me into King. It's just this big fat man, and King's just this cute little fairy. So I think Escanor, they played him off. He's always kind of that comedic moment in the anime, so that worth it. I think that's pretty memorable.
Yeah, very unique characters. So what's your second memory there, Novage?
My second one, which I would say it was that hype moment, because it was during I guess you could say the arc when the Elders had control over Camelot, and they were finally starting to try to take it back. And Hauser and Bon and some of the other holy knights are all in the presence of Esterosa, and they can't move. But the only person walking in was Escanor with no problem. And his comment to him saying, it's just he says, "You got to be careful. Don't fall to my commandment." And he goes, what did he say? He said, why would I hold hatred for someone that's weaker than me? And he's just so arrogant. And that whole fight, that whole scene was just great. It's just him kneeling in front of him, asking him if he dropped something. That whole fight was just something that it was just that hype moment, gets you all hyped up and looking forward to what's going to come next in the anime or in the game. I mean, whatever came first for you, but again, being able to relive that moment in the game and using your own Escanor to fight Esterosa. And that was pretty memorable moment.
It's funny, I guess, jumping ahead to my favorite moment, or one of them happens to be an Escanor moment as well. I feel he's just such an interesting character that resonates so well with people, and just the way that he kind of carries himself is very compelling. My one of my favorite moments was the one fight where he becomes the one and has to fight Assault Mode Meliodas, and you just see like the clash of the Titans going at it, right? And the cockiness on both sides was something to to be beheld, and it was really that breathtaking moment. I think it's probably a big highlight for many people who play or the game or watch the anime too. And I know that in game, the characters, Assault Mode Meliodas and the one, like they came out and they were very strong characters too. And I think you can't really expect anything else just because of how cool those characters were. And just rounding out the favorite moments, I guess I probably should have mentioned the second one while Sandy was telling hers, because my second is very similar to Sandy's. It's when I first opened the game and started playing it, I knew the game was coming out. I hadn't watched Seven Deadly Sins or anything. I think I heard a YouTuber be like, this is going to be an amazing game. I'm playing on JP. So I was like, I got to check out this anime. So I was watching the anime and I was like, this is pretty cool. Got a cool story, like the characters. I think I'm going to like the game. I was prepping for the game and then opening the game up and actually starting to play it and be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm inside the anime. And that was a cool moment to me. And it's like, I'm just kind of reiterating what Sandy was saying. Netmarble does a really good job of making you feel like you're immersed in the anime itself. And I think that's a very difficult thing to do. Usually when you do video games, especially like three-dimensional ones, they lose a lot of the anime flavor. They start looking like blocky and like, typical mobile 3D models. Whereas here, like it's very, very smooth, very well done, very polished. It looks exactly like an anime, even though it does have that three-dimensional perspective, which is something you can't really get very easily or translate very easily from the page of a book or the TV screen. So, that's my favorite moment as well. But I think, thanks Skin Carnage for suggesting this one, because it's nice to reminisce sometimes, and the 20th episode is always a good one to look back and start thinking about things like that.
Daz, when you said T1 versus Assault Mode Meliodas, I remember what was bugging you so hard during the the update of that perfect cube just not lining up, and just little baby Assault Meliodas looking up at Zoan, who's big and powerful. It's hilarious.
Okay, story time. Since Sandy brought it up, Novage has that title that bothers him. The one thing that was bothering me during the one Assault Mode Meliodas bit in game, and you'd have to look up the intro screen to see what the problem was here. But in the T1 versus Assault Mode Meliodas fight, they were within one of Merlin's perfect cubes. And on the intro screen, whenever you loaded up the game, they'd show the two of them staring down at each other with the perfect cube around them. But if you followed the lines, and this is a little bit more obvious if you're using a tablet or if you're in landscape mode, if you follow the lines of the cube, they wouldn't connect. And it drove me nuts, because if you just kind of extended the lines out, they'd miss each other and you wouldn't have a perfect cube. And I've talked to Sandyy and Novage about it a lot off camera about how much it bugged me, and I showed them at the time. But it's something I've never aired publicly, which maybe I should have, or maybe I shouldn't have, because it may bug other people too. But anyways, that's a sore moment in the history that bugs me with my small level of OCD, I guess, that I might have nagging in the back of my head. But why don't we move on to the featured comment? Here's Sandy, the featured comment for the week.
Yeah, this week's featured comment is hilarious. Wherever you guys leave comments for us, where you find us, Discord, YouTube, Twitch, we try to pick a comment every week to kind of broadcast. And this week's shout out is to Hutcast Game on episode 19. And his comment was first. And honestly, that's a big compliment, because it means people are watching us on YouTube, and to have a subscriber be like first and take pride in commenting first, thank you.
Yeah, we're kind of trolling our featured comment section by using that comment. But again, like you said, I think it's great as soon as you have people rushing to get to that first comment. It's always hilarious. It's such an internet meme thing too, to be the person who posts first. Okay. Well, on that note, let's move on to the Jeopardy segment. I think we've got a pretty great set of questions and categories today that I'm pretty excited to go over. So for those of you who haven't seen this segment before, we're going to be playing Jeopardy. I'm not going to go over the rules. I'm assuming people probably know by now the rules of Jeopardy, the popular game show that's been around as long as I've been around. So we're going to be doing it with 2 categories, 5 questions in each category. Sandyy and Novage, the first one to buzz in, will be able to answer the question or answer the question in the form of a question, Jeopardy way. But anyhow, the 2 categories are Where's My Shirt? Which, again, this is an homage to Sandy's liking for shirtless males. So all of the answers in this category will involve shirtless men. And then the other category is called Ragnarocking. And as you probably could guess, those answers or questions have to do with the new Ragnarok expansion. So Sandyy, I have a feeling I know which category you're going to go to first, but which point value would you like to take? $200, $400, $600, $800, or $1,000?
I'm going to do 600. Where's my shirt?
Where's my shirt for 600? Talk about a bad decision. This sin sold his sacred treasure for seed capital for his business. Oh, that was definitely Novage.
Who is Meliodas?
That is correct. Novage takes Where's My Shirt for 600 and also the lead. Now, Novage, you've got control of the board. What would you like to choose?
Let's go with Ragnarocking for 400.
You don't want to go with Where's My Shirt? Okay, Ragnarocking for 400. We all thought the Merlin of legend was a man. Looks like 70S is going to set us straight again with this electric deity. Oh, Sandyy, what's the answer?
Thonar or Thornar? Who is Thornar? Thonar? Thonar.
I see where you're going, and you know what? I'm going to give it to you just because they're not super clear on that. The correct answer that I was looking for is who is Thor. Thonar, it's looking at the trailer, there's the character Thonar, but then there's also a female Thor character that's fighting Escanor. Like, who knows? Maybe they're the same person in different forms. Like, I don't know. Like, the fact that the girl's character's name is Thonar makes you wonder. But either way, I guess we don't really know for sure. So you get the points. So Sandyy, you got 400.
She's probably spoiling it now for people. So
there's like a 2-minute trailer that's all we can glean all this information from. So we're just kind of like picking it apart. But yeah, Sandyy, maybe you've gleaned a little bit into the future there. So what would you like to take for your next question?
I'm going to do Where's My Shirt for 1,000. Let's go big.
Going big for 1,000. Where's my shirt for 1,000? For some strange reason, he always calls Hawk Master. Sandyy, quick off the bat with that one.
Yes. Who is Bond?
That is correct. You vaulted into the lead with 1,400 points. What question are we going to next?
Let's do Where's My Shirt for 200.
Where's my shirt for 200? Who needs a weapon when this guy's hand is so strong, it's an ultimate move? Sandyy.
Oh man, I raised it too. I'm going to say who is Griamore?
That is incorrect.
Oh.
That is the wrong shirtless male. Novage, do you know who the answer is to this question?
I guess it doesn't hurt to take a guess.
Well, it does. It will cost you 200 points if you get it wrong.
That is true, actually. I'm going to go with. You know what? You're right. That's costing 200 points for a risk.
Okay.
I don't need the points, but I got it now.
Sandyy thinks she knows who it is. Who is it, Sandyy?
Okay, I got this wrong. It was who is Droll?
No.
Damn it!
Negative 200.
I would have stopped now. I said no points.
I thought this was going to be one of the easier ones. Escanor's ultimate move, he uses Divine Sword Axe Escanor with his hand. It just goes down the middle. And he is definitely one of the shirtless men in the storyline. So I thought for sure you get it. And I could see people in chat are getting it too. I think they're a little bit embarrassed at your lack of knowledge of shirtless men today, Sandyy.
Is it droll? Because he does the like.
Well, maybe he does his dance and like things pop out of the ground, but the hand is a sword. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't too clear on the question. But anyhow, Sandy, you still have control. Which would you like to go to next?
Let's finish it off. Where's my shirt at 400?
We still do have 800 after this, so it's not quite finished. But this is the question. If you look at the wanted poster for Meliodas in the tavern, you wouldn't be wrong to think it looked more like this commandment. Oh, Sandy put her hand up. I'm going to take that as a buzz. You look like you're regretting the decision.
I gotta remember his face. He looks like who is Estarossa?
That's correct. If you take a quick look at that image on the wanted poster, it looks a lot like Estarossa. Okay, well, Sandy, you somehow snuck through that one. You want to go clear up the category with "Where's my shirt" for 800?
Let's do it.
Okay. Where's my shirt for 800? This hulking behemoth is easily the most top-heavy Holy Knight. He weighs in at a smooth 400 pounds and it's all muscle. Novage, who is it?
Who's Grimoire?
That's right. Novage sneaking back into the game with 800 points for Grimoire. Yeah, I had to check his weight in game. He's 400 freaking pounds. I couldn't believe it. It's like, geez, I thought I was heavy. Okay. Novage, you've got control of the board. We've got a few more questions left in Ragnarocking. Which one do you want to take?
Let's go 800 in Ragnarocking. The tongue twister. Ragnarocking.
Ragnarocking for 800. Move over, Camilla. Soon you won't be the only hero. Oh my gosh. You guys, I didn't even finish the question. Okay, so, I'll finish it anyways. The only hero that can transform into a wild animal. Sandy, who is it?
Fenrir.
I think it's Fenrir, but that's
Fenrir.
That's pretty close. I knew where you're going with that, so that will take you now into the lead by 1,000 points. You got 2,400, and Nova just got 1,400. So you've also got control of the board. 200, 600, or 1,000. Which one do you want?
Let's do 600.
600. Ragnarocking. This dark and mysterious prince looks to be the main antagonist in Ragnarok, at least for the beginning of the story. Anyways, Sandy, you got your hand up first.
Who is Sigurd?
Sandy's been doing her homework. 600 points for Sandy. Ooh, Novage, you got to get that hand up a little bit quicker. You're behind by 1,600. There's only 1,200 left on the board, so this might be a tough call for you. Might have to go into Final Jeopardy to try and squeak out a win. So, Sandy, 200 or 1,000? Which one do you want to take?
Let's do 200.
The Sins leave Britannia and Arthurian legend and mythology for this region, which is part of Norse mythology. I'll read that again because it was a little bit of a tongue twister, but feel free to put up your hand if you know. The Sins leave Britannia and Arthurian legend behind for this region, which is part of Norse mythology. So it's basically where they're going to. All right.
I'm so confused.
Sandy's going to try. I think I worded this question really poorly. But Sandy, you want to take a crack at it anyways? I should probably read these out loud before writing them down, just to make sure they work. But anyhow, what's the name of that we're looking for here, Sandy?
Okay, I'm very confused, but I'm gonna try. Was this for 200 or 1,000? If I answer it wrong, 200. Okay, I'm gonna try. I think it's the North region, Milgard.
Midgard, yep.
Midgard? My tongue twisters.
It's Midgard. Midgard. Yeah, so what I was trying to ask there in a very convoluted manner was they're leaving Britannia and where are they going to? What country or region are they going to? But yes, again, I apologize. But hey, Sandy somehow got it. So you should almost get bonus points for that one. Okay, so next we've got Ragnarocking for 1,000. Whoops, I messed up the scoreboard there. Okay, Ragnarocking for 1,000. Grimnir makes the mistake of sampling Meliodas' cooking in the Ragnarok trailer. You think he'd know better, considering how much he travels, considering this is his job. Novage.
He's a bard.
That is correct, and Novage makes a game of it. Novage has 2,400, and Sandy has 3,200, if my monkey math is correct. Bring us into Final Jeopardy. The Final Jeopardy, I forgot to put down the category, but while you're thinking about your wagers, I will come up with the category. So the category, I guess it is the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast. All right, so think about your wagers. Again, Sandy's got 3,200. Novage has got 2,400. Write them down. We're going to trust you. We'll read them off once you answer your questions. So everyone's locked in. Here is the Final Jeopardy question. These are the 3 guests we've had on the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast in order of appearance. Okay. Oh, Sandy's ready to go. Novage, you got your answer in your head? Okay, So Sandy... Oh, actually, Novage, you get to go first because you're losing. So what's your wager, Novage?
I wager 2,200.
2,200. And what is your answer?
So in order of appearance, correct?
Yep.
So I want to say it was Chicksua, then Blitz, then Kirito.
Okay. And Sandy, before I reveal if that's the correct response, do you also have the same response or do you have a different one?
I have a different one for some reason.
How much did you wager, first off?
I wagered 800.
800. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. And what was your answer?
It was who is first is Chicksua, and then it was Kirito, and then it was Blitz.
Well, we know you both can't get them right. You both had the 3 people right, but only Novage had the correct response there. It was indeed Chicksua, then Blitz, then Kirito. And I actually thought it was wrong. I looked it up earlier today. I thought it was the other way around too. I was with you, Sandy, but turns out Novage was right. We had Blitz on before Kirito. Kirito was our last guest. So that means that Novage sneaks out the win with 3,600 points. Sandy, you had 2,400 after losing your 800 points from your wager there in Final Jeopardy. Wow, nail biter to the end. I love it. All right, well, good game, guys, and good podcast. This is where we end the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Boar Hat Tavern, a 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross podcast. We stream the show live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Boar Hat Tavern, every week on Tuesdays. I gotta try and remember this now. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time is our regular time going forward. We had adjusted a little bit again today just because of work conflicts. Sandy, where can people find these Guild Boss guys that we're going to be seeing in the next couple days?
Yes, hopefully soon. I gotta go grind them now, but find me on YouTube, Sandyy 7DS.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us anytime at podcast@boarhattavern.com or follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Boar Hat Tavern. All 3 of us are members of the Global Guild Denied as part of the Scoundrels Alliance. If you'd like to join our ranks, reach out to us on Instagram, Twitter, or send us an email, find our Discord. Not too hard to find. You can also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also find our shows on our website at boarhattavern.com. The ongoing joke of the podcast. We will get to it eventually. We'd like to thank Battle Merwa for crafting our killer logo, Streetwise Rhapsody from YouTube for composing our awesome cover of the Grand Cross theme song that we use for our intro, and Andre Bobe from ArtStation for letting us use his outstanding 3D renders of the Boar Hat Tavern for our pre-live and post-video splash screens. You can find all of their work in the descriptions of wherever you happen to be watching or listening to this. Sandyy Novage, thanks for hosting as per usual. Everybody out there, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.
Bye.